Greetings. Today I want to take a little deeper dive into the outer planet alignment that is happening between Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus. Really unique and rare alignment that we have that actually lasts for several years. And I have talked about this alignment of double sextile trine in previous videos, but now that we have very soon Uranus going into Gemini, it's getting a little more real. So I am Marina Orms here with your Astro Perspective, and this is for June 29th, but it really applies in the big picture as we move through the summer of 2025 and really even into the rest of this decade. So specifically looking at what is unfolding in summer of 2025, we are looking at already we have Neptune in a sextile to Pluto. That's not unusual. I mean, at least not in recent years, decades. We've had a sextile of Pluto to Neptune in and out of exact for decades. So that has been with us for quite a while, and they're locked in a sextile because Pluto and Neptune have overlapping orbits. And so it just so happens that in the past few decades, we had that time in their cycle where for a while, Pluto was actually closer to the Earth than Neptune, even though typically Pluto is further out in the solar system, or in our solar system. So in other words, because of that overlapping orbit and kind of crossing paths in a way, even though they're not crossing paths literally, but their orbits. Anyway, the planet Pluto is coming a little closer than it usually does. So they're locked in that sextile. And so we've had a Neptune sextile to Pluto for many decades now. And what's new, what we're adding to that is now Uranus forming a sextile with Neptune. Sextiles are 60 degrees. So we've got 60 degrees between Pluto and Neptune, 60 degrees between Neptune and Uranus. Not only, and Uranus, as we head through the summer, toward the end of summer, Uranus getting closer and closer to exact in that sextile to Neptune. So, and I've got all of this outlined in my handy reference guide that is on my member site. The link is in the description for this video. Super easy. Just click more to expand the text in the notes for this video, and then click that link to read it about the 2025 planetary alignments. And when you go there to that article, you will see different sections. And the last section is the one that has to do with the triple planet sextile alignment. So you can see exact dates, exactly how close they get, what degree, what dates, and all that. So as we go through, be sure to reference that article because I've made it easy for you to see what dates different things are getting activated. So what's happening right now is that we are getting ready on July 7th to have Uranus go from Taurus into Gemini. Hopefully you saw my fabulous chat conversation with my friend and fellow astrologer Jenny Webb about Uranus going into Gemini, what we have seen in history in the past, because Uranus has an 84-year cycle. So what was going on 84 years ago, and then 84 years before that, we can get a little bit of insight into the kinds of energies we are dealing with. And so that was just fascinating and really fun and wonderful conversation about these energies and how to think about them. So if you missed that, it came out on Sunday, June 22nd. And it's for that, for Uranus going into Gemini, which is happening on July 7th. So what I'm talking about today is that as we are preparing, now Uranus is in its final days as of when this video comes out, of being in Taurus. And then when it goes into Gemini, it's not getting closer to its sextile, 60-degree sextile to Neptune, which again, I've talked about that Pluto-Neptune sextile alignment before, and some of the links to those YouTube videos are also in that handy reference guide article that I mentioned that's in the description for this video. So again, really handy reference guide. So as we're getting ready, Uranus goes into Gemini. It's getting closer to that exact sextile in well, it's going to get very, very close in 2025. It's getting closer. And not only that, though, when Uranus goes into Gemini, it becomes the third outer planet to go from earth and water signs into air and fire signs. So we now have Pluto in air sign Aquarius, bringing, all the Aquarian themes of freedom, breakthrough, democracy. Like, what does freedom mean? Who gets to have freedom? How do we do this? What is community? How do we operate as a community? What do the people need versus the people in power? These kinds of questions. Pluto in Aquarius. Um, Shifting from Earth sign, Capricorn, which is moving very slowly into Pluto in Aquarius, which is about rapid fire, sudden change, dealing with technology, and shifts in consciousness, shifts in how we experience things, shifts bringing in sudden changes that we aren't expecting, surprises, and those kinds of things. And then we also have Neptune now in Aries, Saturn coming very close to its conjunction with Neptune also this summer. So both in early Aries, which is a fire sign, moving from water sign Pisces into fire sign Aries. So, and this is what I talked about before, is that the water and earth has a certain quality to it. If you think about what is water like, what is earth like, right? Earth is solid, it's physical, it's tangible, you can see it, it all makes sense, it's right there, it's like the structure and the form of things you can see, taste, touch, understand, explain, right? Things that make sense. So it moves and it changes very slowly because you have to reconfigure its form, its structure. Water, water is interesting also, right? Water is more intangible. It deals with feelings, it deals with energy and things that kind of are harder to see, taste, touch, and hear, like feelings, like how we feel or how we might feel energy, our intuition, some of those more intangible things. But with both earth and water, you have this sort of quality of, needing to work with material. Okay, so like, well, one of the things I pointed out is that earth and water together make mud. So, so it's got that quality to it, right? Things move slowly, they take time, you have to put effort into it. Even if you're trying to move water, right? You don't just pick it up and move it. You have to redirect water, right? If you've got water flowing in a river, you have to build a canal or somehow, right, do some change that changes the course of the flowing of the water. It isn't instantaneous. Water erodes earth slowly over time, right? And also when it comes to our feelings, sometimes we have to, it's a process. Sometimes we have to feel things and really move through them before we feel different or lighter or have those emotions shift. So that feeling of mud, that feeling of things taking time, I mean, there's a beauty to it, right? It's really wonderful, but you can really feel the change as it's happening. The difference between that, the earth and water energies, and the air and fire energies are that air and fire change much more quickly. So air is like the realm of ideas, and you can change on a dime from one way of thinking to another. You can have an epiphany, you can have an aha moment. You could decide that something, an email you've written, right? You could decide it sounds to this or to that, and you rewrite it, and now it sounds different, right? So it changes more quickly. Fire, same idea, transforms. It's hot, it moves fast, and it blows things up, right? It can. So really, the change that we are experiencing, or the different way that reality is going to feel, is already feeling, is that the way things manifest and the way things change and the way things emerge and unfold is very different. So, in other words, we're not pushing the wagon and the cart, right, from point A to point B to wait until it gets there. We're just sending that rocket ship directly, right? So, and especially as Uranus goes into Gemini, we are going to begin to have rapid fire changes in communication. And that can look like interruptions or disruptions in communication, as Jenny and I talked about in that conversation that is in last week's video. Or it can bring shifts and breakthroughs. Things can change much more quickly. And so I'll just give you a teaser. One of the things I talked about in that video was the communications in 18, back in the 1800s, I think it was 1860s, that the speed of communication was a big theme. So they were trying to lay a cable across the Atlantic Ocean, the transatlantic telegraph cable, that would increase their communication time from the amount of time basically that it takes a ship to cross the ocean to something that could go through these cables in terms of being a message that could reach an entire continent, in a couple of minutes. And that, think about how radical that would have been at that time and what a breakthrough that was. And now think about what we have in terms of cell phones, computers, internet, right? Things we couldn't have even imagined, and how quickly that's changed. So once Uranus goes into Gemini, those themes of communication and how fast they are, and what there's not like sustaining energy. It's more like interruption, disruption, shift, and change. So we could have quick um, breakthroughs, but then also they don't last, or it's hard to maintain, or we can't keep the really improvements to our daily life are going to be need more work over time. The actual slow creation of what life really looks like. And so things might be exciting, we might feel those shifts and changes, but also needing to remember that it's not necessarily something you can count on, because it's going to change again. So thinking about it that way, and we have this air and fire energy, not only that, but these are outer planets, so they deal with the big picture. They deal with kind of the background themes, the soup we are swimming in terms of the energy and the state of the world and the way it feels. And so you don't realize it because it's just the way it is, but when you look back over history, over time, you can see themes in different decades and different centuries, and you can correlate that with these outer planets and their placements, sort of the vibe that was here in the 1980s versus, the 2020s. So so that is the outer planets. And the outer planets, all three, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, all three going not just from earth and water into air and fire. So they're Pluto going from Capricorn to Aquarius, Neptune going from Pisces into Aries, and Gemini going from Taurus into Gemini. Um, but all three are going to be in the very early parts of those signs. So early degrees, their closest conjunction, closest to exact all three conjunction that will be later this summer. And let's see, I've got this in front of me. So it's within a half a degree of exact from August 25th through September 11th. So that's the time period where they're the closest. And then, of course, leading up to that and following after that, they will still be within, a degree, 2 degrees, etc. So we're really looking at this intensifying of these outer planets in the early degrees of air and fire signs. Saturn jumping in there as well. So even though the three outermost planets are Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus, the next closest to the outermost planets is Saturn. And it's right there with Neptune in early Aries. And both will be retrograding back into Pisces later this year. But for now, and once Uranus goes into Gemini, we have this early degrees of air and fire signs, really baby energy. So immature energy that is trying to sort itself out, trying to find its way. It's in the trial and error stage. It is new. It is brand new. So these energies feel new. It's the baby version of all of these signs. And so what does it look like to be a baby? It looks like you're figuring things out, right? You feel it, kind of like this is what it kind of feels like to be me, but what can I do? I don't know yet. I don't know until I try, until I fall down a few times, until I watch others and see how it's done, right? There's lots of different ways that we learn, but we are in the immature part of these signs with the outer planet. So again, this is the bigger picture of the reality we are experiencing, the vibe we are in. Now, when you think about what the world feels like right now, it feels a little chaotic. It feels a little undirected, right? It's kind of hard to know what direction things are going to go, who's going to win this, who's going to win that, what's going to happen, like what's it going to look like, how are these problems going to get solved, what is it going to shake out to be? And that's where we are in the energies. We are in this phase of I don't know yet. And the other thing about being in the baby part of these energies is, of course, that we can shape them. So there is so much that we have available to us creatively in terms of innovation, in terms of starting new things, trying new things. And this is really a time of experimentation. It's a time of ideas, all the air energy. It's a time of trial and error with the fire energy, especially with Aries, risk taking, pioneering, innovating. These are all energies that are about beginnings. And so we are beginning to move in new directions. We are beginning to try new things. We are discovering new ideas or maybe new ways of thinking about old ideas. And what does that mean for us? There's so much going on in terms of there's the feeling of chaos and sort of not knowing what's going to happen or where we're all going to land or what it will look like or how it will unfold. But there is also this quality of there is so much potential within that. There's so much opportunity to make a difference, to have an impact, to try something, to move in a direction that feels right to you and see where it goes. In the past, especially with the outer planets being in earth and water, it was just sluggish. It was slow to try something different. It's just like your whole life had to, feel like this big giant mountain that you have to move or turn, big old ship or something. So now a different vibe. It is a vibe that feels like, okay, there's a lightness to it. Yeah, go try that thing. See what happens. And there is that quality of, you know, maybe nobody has figured this out yet. So why not? Right? Why not try it out? Why not try doing your thing and see where it goes? And it's not going to necessarily make it to maturity, right? We need to plant lots of seeds so that some of them can make it to the flowering and fruiting stage that can hopefully be sustaining in the long run. But that's not where we are yet. We are in the phase now and for the next few years where we need to plant a lot of seeds. We need to try a lot of new ideas, a lot of new approaches, and we need to support ourselves and one another in this process because there aren't any guarantees. The planting of the seeds, the trying of new ideas, the networking and the ways that we can support one another by sparking off of each other's ideas, by saying, hey, that's a great idea. How can I help you do it? Whatever, right? Those are the kinds of energies of like, find the enthusiasm, find the ideas, get excited about the ideas and try them. And so that can obviously look a lot of different ways, and it might be something very specific and very personal to you and your life, and what are the situations before you, and the challenges before you, and it might just be about how are you going to approach those specific challenges, but it could also, of course, be in the bigger picture more of something that is being experienced in the collective, and how can you participate in problem solving and community building and whatever, right? How can you be an agent of change because the world is changing? And so what it changes into when we participate in that, not only are we part of helping to create something that is meaningful, but also it's good for our mental health, right? So so when you feel like you are doing something, when you are engaged, when you are trying things, when you are talking to other people, networking with them, working with community or friends, or even just having those conversations, it will make you feel better than you might otherwise feel if you were just worried about the state of the world and what is going to happen. And just as a reminder, again, where we come from in recent years, especially up until 2023, 2024, as we were going through that Pluto transition from Capricorn to Aquarius. Um, Before that shift, and then Neptune earlier this spring went into Aries, and then Saturn went into Aries. So before those things happened, things really were moving more slowly. We were really up against this like mountain that was very, very hard to move. But that is changing. And so it's important to remember and recognize that what felt overwhelming or challenging or frustrating 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago is now becoming more of an open door to say, there's not anything, there's not so much in the way, right? It's there, the field is more open for experimenting, for trial and error, for finding out who you are authentically. Like, what do you have to offer? What is your life experience? How is your life experience something that might be helpful? How can you be supportive to others in your community? Maybe you're the one that wants to go be involved politically, or maybe you're the one that wants to make dinner for others who go and get involved politically. And it doesn't have to be politics, right? Art is fantastic. Community building is fantastic. Just basic kindness can really make a huge, huge difference. Being the way that you want others to be in the world, and um, bringing in that power of, hey, I'm gonna just blast you with kindness and caring, and if you choose not to reciprocate that sense of kindness and caring, I will just move on because I can find somebody else who will. And again, when you are being that way in the world, and then maybe you're making an impact on somebody who is a little bit frightened to be seen or to express themselves or to interact, right? And then just that kindness and caring creates that safe space for someone to feel like they can be who they are. Maybe that's your gift to the world, right? So there are so many ways, growing food, or, you could probably brainstorm on it. And please do let me know your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear how you feel inspired to participate or be engaged or make a difference in some way that feels good and right and true for you. So to recap, we've got these outer planets, these energies that represent the bigger picture of our experience. And we are in currently a process where they are going from slower energies of earth and water into faster moving energies of air and fire. Not only that, but they are moving into the early degrees of these air and fire signs, which are brand new, new beginnings. Think new beginnings, think starting things, think rebirth, regeneration, emergence, from emergency to emergence, right? And then finally, not only do we have all of that I just talked about, but also these sextiles are early cycle sextiles. So they're what we call waxing sextiles, meaning they are at the beginning of the cycle between two planets. So they've only moved from their conjunction to 60 degrees of separation. They're moving apart. So that waxing sextile is also very creative, it's very future oriented, and all of these energies are looking to the future. We are not going to serve ourselves or our growth or our evolution if we are trying to reconstruct, recreate, hold on to, or cling to the past, because that past doesn't work in the future we are going to. So we need to be future oriented. We need to imagine ourselves and our future generations 100 years from now at least, and think, where are we going? Who do we need to be to step into that future, right? How do we need to think about the current problems that the world faces, which are not insurmountable? They they feel daunting because it is part of this big evolutionary shift we are going through that brings, more rapid change now that these outer planets have gone into air and fire signs. So they are not insurmountable. It is not you know, when the game is over, the game is over, right? And that's going to be true for all of us. Like at some point, this journey of life will not be what we're doing anymore. Probably true of nations, you know, uh, presumably also true of the earth and so on. But you know, hopefully that's billions of years into the future or whatever. So for now, we are here, right? And as long as we are here and we keep going, the best way to engage with life is to imagine it creatively. What can we create? What can we do? How can each of us be a spark of not just hope, but like actual engagement and creativity, new thinking, new possibilities, imagining what we can create when we come together, when we think about things in new ways. And so, future oriented thinking. What can we do now? What can we do? Right? Not what can't we do, because certainly we can see the things that feel frustrating and challenging in the world and the things that bring up fears and anxieties about the future and stuff. But if you imagine that future, gosh, you know, what if we actually are still here in 100 years? What will we wish that we had done now? So that's how we can think about it in terms of the future. And we can create and think about our lives and our day-to-day actions from that perspective of what can I try? What new direction can I move in? What action step can I take? What different way can I talk to myself? Right? Instead of being hard on yourself and saying you're not good enough, what kind of pep talk can you give yourself to say, no, you know, you can do this one thing today. This is, you know, it's doable and you could do it. And maybe that's getting out of bed. Maybe that is making a good meal. Maybe it is making a phone call or getting involved in something, going to a meeting. I don't know, right? It could be anything. But the point is, do it for yourself. Do it for yourself. Do it for the future that you care about. Do it for whatever inspires and moves you, because it is good for you. Not only is it good for the world, but it's good for you. And so in that selfish way, do it because it is good for your mental health, it is good for your attitude, it is good for your well-being, it helps you be there for others, etc., etc. So, so we talk on this YouTube channel every day. Every day's Astro Vibe is about how can we work with the energies of today to make the most of it, and how can we think about self-care to first get our own needs met so that we can do this creative work, so that we can show up, so that we can try something, so that we can go, oh, I tried that yesterday and that was a complete bomb. It didn't work at all. But that's okay. I can shake myself off. I can take a nap and get myself back to center and then figure out what's the next thing. And is there a friend you could reach out to? Is there someone you could talk to? Do you maybe need an astrology reading, right? So that could be the thing that helps you connect with what are your next steps, maybe something you're feeling that you're not sure about, and just getting that validation that says, yes, your chart says you should do this. Your chart says this is what you're good at. Getting that validation can sometimes just be that piece of confirmation that you need to have that confidence. So self-care first, so that you can engage in the world. There is never a requirement to be perfect. This is trial and error. This is new beginnings. This is setting foot in new directions. You might have to go back to start a few times, but remember, we need to plant a lot of seeds, and some of them will make it into the future. And this is the time to figure out how to do that. So, okay, lots Lots of pep talks today, but I really get excited about these energies and these outer planet alignments. And so as we are heading into the July 7th, Uranus going into Gemini, we're going to be activating this even more. So the third piece will be in place there, kind of click, 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 to kind of unlock some, hopefully some inspiration, some new ideas and new possibilities. And it's up to us, right? And then Pluto is in Aquarius to stay until 2043. Neptune and Uranus and Saturn all will retrograde later this year back into water and earth signs. So Pisces for Neptune and Saturn, Taurus for Uranus. And then in 2026, all three planets going back into these early air and fire signs where we've got several years ahead of that earth, or I'm sorry, that air and fire energy, that creative spark, that ability to shift, to pivot into new ideas, new thinking, and new possibilities, to ignite those sparks of possibility. And again, the more we can think about this in positive ways, the more we can invest in those positive and hopeful solutions and possibilities for our future. All right, that's enough. That's enough of me talking. Thank you for being here and for being part of this whole experience and holding space and doing your own self-care and all the good things that you are doing in the world, which is probably way more than you think. I'm Marina Orms. You can learn more about me at astrologyheals.com. That is where you can book a reading and we can look at your own personal chart together to awaken these possibilities for you and your life and your happiness and your creative work, right? And then subscribe to this YouTube channel for the daily astro vibes. I'm here every day with astrology for unshakable self-care. And finally, look again in the description, the notes for this video for that link to that 2025 handy planetary alignments reference guide, as well as all the resources that I have and will have on my member site because I am in that creative mode also. So stay tuned and I will see you next time. Thanks again. Bye for now.